You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation, as brought to you by Foundational Fridays. And now, let us begin.
Greetings all. Here we are again, another Foundational Friday. I am your conductor and host, Yuya Assaan-ANU, Chief Jegna of the ANU Spiritual Order, Head Instructor of Sadulu House Spiritual Center. And I feel like it's been so long since I've made that statement. I know we've been out of commission for a time, and for those of you who are connected to the order, you know that I was recently traveling out of the country and ran into some stumbling blocks on the way back to this great nation of ours, United States, or the United States of America. But in any event, I'm here now. And we're moving and we're grooving and we're doing things that need to be done. And just been catching up over the past few strongs or weeks, as some call them. A lot of clients, you know, and a lot of people who just been in need of help that I wasn't able to assist while I was, you know, being hosted in Nigeria for the amount of time that I was. You know, a lot of times I travel and I do different things and work with different people, but I don't necessarily make it public information. Those of you who know me know that I pretty much keep my movements pretty private and, you know, just kind of focus on what I need to do for the people. But I was compelled to put a post up on a social networking site because I had some issues with Homeland security. You know, United States Homeland Security, when I attempted to return back into the country. And for those who do not know, because I didn't really update everyone, and partly because when I was coming back, when I came back from Ghana, and I was transitioning through Lagos, through Nigeria, my time there, I spent 4 days there in an immigration lounge, quote unquote, as they call it. And I contracted malaria, which I wouldn't have gotten, but I was eating foods that were not foods that I normally eat, you know, because I had to kind of just, you know, handle what was there. So, you know, when I came back, I didn't realize it until I actually came back and touched down here that the flu had caught me. So I just was a little incoherent for a little while. So that's the reason why we haven't had shows, and, you know, people noticed there were no updates. But I did let people know, hey, I'm back, and, you know, updates soon to come. You know, so I'll get into what actually happened. And I, you know, first I want to just send a really heartfelt vibration of gratitude, you know, and appreciation for all of you who did rituals on my behalf, prayed on my behalf, affirmed on my behalf to ensure that I returned home safely without any further complication. Obviously, it was very effective. For those of us who are out here doing the work in the trenches, this is a part of the things that we go through. You know, you go out of the country to help individuals, and when you come back, you know, sometimes people want to ask you questions and things like that. You know, sometimes it's a little difficult for you to settle back in. And we have a long legacy of this amongst our community workers. So I'm honored to be amongst that legacy. You know, I'm honored to be counted and even listed, you know, amongst those individuals in that number. And, you know I've been listed amongst those individuals for, you know, going on almost 2 decades now. Okay. Because of the work that I do. I was reminded of something very important by one of our students, on this very day. And, you know, he asked if there would be a show this evening. And, you know, I said, yeah, you know, definitely will be a show. I said, it's been some time. We've been out of commission. And I said, you know, I have to make up for lost time. And he said, no, you don't. You know, and he said, no, you don't. He said, you're always telling us that we have to do our own work because there may be a time that you're no longer here. So, you know, you not being there or not being able to do the show, it should not basically stop anything from what needs to happen. If we need you, we should be doing work. And if we need you, if we hit a stumbling block, then we should be reaching out. So, you know, I thanked him for that message, and I'll thank him again because it was important for me to hear. Sometimes we get caught up, especially as leaders, we get into a real maternal mode, where we not necessarily worried about our students or worry about our listening contingency, but there certainly is a level of concern there to make sure that everyone is getting what they're supposed to get. And, everyone's got food on their plate, but sometimes when you're in that mode, you don't check to see if people have even finished their food on their plate before you're giving them the next, dish or the next course. So, I was thankful for him sharing that, the type of work that I do, aside from, though it's really not separate, the spiritual work is certainly directly connected to the community work, the social work, the educational reform, the work that I do. Well, don't even need to list everything, but community rearing is what I do. Okay. If anyone is curious and wondering why it seems like I'm always on the move, always traveling, because rearing community is very important to me. It's very dear to me. And again, the best self-preservation is group preservation. All right. We can sit behind our screens and our microphones and our phones all day and speak about the great power of our ancestors, the great powers of the spirits who work with us. But it's very important to realize that, these spirits, they work through you and with you in order to recreate and transform your mind into the image of their own, so that you can move beyond them. It's not just so that you can always pull on them as tools to utilize. You don't always pull on Ogun's hammer so that you'll have the tool of the hammer. You pull on Ogun's hammer so you understand the wisdom and the physics that go into the making of a hammer and the utilization and the implementation of a hammer. So in effect, you become the hammer. Okay, your mind becomes different. Your body becomes different. So tapping into the spiritual energy allows you a measure of strength and a measure of wit and intellectual and emotional capacity, so that you can go out and actually do. You can get things done. And it's that divine trinity of thinking, saying, and doing. That third aspect is so critical. And that's probably why when you look at Bible mythology, the third aspect was killed and turned into a ghost. The third aspect was the female. Why? Because the female is the one who produces. Okay, you had the son, who was the word, you had the father, who was the thought, and you had the mother, who was the active force. So they kill the mother and make it a ghost. And now no one does anything, other than signifying and proclaiming their great powers, So, coming out of the country, coming back into the country, I had some issues with Homeland Security. And fortunately, this is where we really get into the value of respect and honor and integrity over the pursuit of title. And, I shared what happened, with those who were close to me, and I was able to speak to face. And there's some things I'm not going to say over the air, but I will say this. When individuals call me Chief Yuya, it's not just because on my sites I'm listed as Chief, and I often say I'm Chief Jegna, because everyone who is under this order and learning this information needs to be a Jegna. Okay, and a Jegna means you're a guide. You're a warrior for your people, but more importantly, you're serving as an elder and a guide for your people. That's what a Jegna is. Me being a Chief Jegna just means that I train other Jegnas. That's all. So what's critical, when I'm traveling through certain places abroad, because I actually do have certain titles, I'm given favor sometimes for those who recognize it, that most wouldn't understand. For instance, I was explaining to someone, they were saying, well, why don't you have your students or whatever call you Baba? And I said, well, because Baba is something, if you really understand that term Baba, if you go to Nigeria, that's not something you just throw around. If you say Baba to someone, they start dancing and singing. Like, you're supposed to start, like, if someone introduces me as Baba, the person may have never met me before. They're going to start dancing and singing in front of me, because that is such a high title. And here people they just grab it like it's nothing. Oh, I'm Baba so-and-so. Yeah, I'm Mama so-and-so. It's not like that, you know? So, I say that to say, you know, interesting enough, someone had shared with me forum posts that someone had put up, I think earlier this month, about me, where basically someone was in a forum and they asked if I was legit. I guess they wanted to get a reading by me or whatever. And they were asking someone who is a quote unquote reader. He's an Orisha priest. So they sent the person a link to a show that I did. I think it was Lady Sapphire's show. I don't remember when I did it, but I know it's on YouTube somewhere. And the person replied and said, I'm listening to this guy referring to me, and he's saying I want to punch him in the teeth, and you know, I'm looking at him out of the side of my eye, and you know, I don't know what he is. He's talking about he does Obi divination, but Dilogun and this and that. I don't know. He's supposed to be a Baba, but he's talking about all this Kemetic stuff, and he's using a Kemetic name, and he's just going off about things, you know. And he was just sounding more and more stupid with every line he was reading. And this is one of the reasons why I don't really, you know, I go out and I touch the world. I don't really spend a lot of time on social networks and forums and doing a whole lot of chit-chatting. And part of the reason, and I spoke to this with one of our students, Damon Rawls, recently. We were talking, and he's one of the hosts of our Anu Asafo show. And we were talking about the same thing with social networking. And we were saying, you know, as men, there's certain things that you just don't say to one another. You know, you just don't. But online, you can say whatever you want. You know, when you're interacting with another man from the moment you shake that man's hand, you know, there's a certain protocol that you're very much aware that you need to maintain, or you and that man may end up wrestling and fighting on the floor. That's just how it is. You know, but online, those protocols completely go out the window. You know, like someone saying they're going to punch me in the teeth. No one's punching me in the teeth. That's just not happening. You know, I don't care who the person thinks they are. You know, anyone who's like me is not just going to get punched in the teeth, you know, and anybody who's ever met me in person clearly knows and sees I'm not the type of person that you're just going to, I'm just a certain type of person. And you can see that. You can see the austerity in my eyes when you look at me, you know. So online, you can play those games, you know. I don't speak to people like that online. I try to show respect because it's just not right. Don't say something you wouldn't say in person. But even the things he was saying, oh, he has a Kemetic name, and he said if he was truly something like, if he was truly legit, he would use his Nigerian name to show his rank. Okay, and if that isn't the stupidest thing, you know, that's not how you show rank, first of all. And he was saying something like, oh, and he was talking about which Orisha and what are in which directions, and he said that Yemoja would be in the south, but she's water, so that would be more like Ilegua would be in the south. Now, if you know anything, you know the sacred Odu of Idi Meji resides in the southern quadrant, ruled over by Yemoja and Ogun. Okay, but I won't even get into all of that because I'll be honest, it may sound rude, but certain people just don't really matter to me. This is an individual, doesn't matter. I'm only really sharing this because I'm relating it to my experience out of the country, and how some people have it really confused in terms of what brings a person character, integrity, and true rank. The fact that this individual said, well, Ilegua should be in the south, you already revealed your rank. Your rank was revealed the minute you used that term Ilegua. You know, you're talking about me not using a Nigerian name. Well, let's find the term Ilegua in Nigeria. And I'm not knocking my Santeria or Lukumi people, but don't push me. You know, I'm very nice about some of the other adaptations of our original systems in Nigeria. And a lot of things I don't say. Okay, not to say that I'm all inclusive, but I think I'm pretty nice, you know. So as soon as someone says something like that, they show their rank, they show where they're at, they show where their understanding is, you know. But again, one of the things that happened to me, and I'll just share, when I was over there, I was coming through the metal detectors for immigration when I needed to be questioned, quote unquote. And somebody, as I was walking through, there was a woman, one of the women who was working there, and there was a young man. A young man went to go pat me down, and he said, "Chief," right? And there was another man standing next to him, and he looked at me and he said, "Well, yeah, if I go buy beads, I could be a chief too." And I just turned to him and said, "I didn't buy these beads." And I never wear my chieftaincy beads. I just had a feeling I needed to wear them that day. I never wear them, especially when I'm abroad. So when the young man came close to me, he's probably about maybe 22, 23 years old, and he was patting me down. He said, he whispered and he said, "I know who you are." Okay, so I left it at that, and this was an individual who helped me a lot while I was going through this ordeal. He did certain things, which I'm not going to say because, I'm just not going to, put him in any position. But there was the woman who was next to him turned around and said, because, when they said chief, I said, well, everyone's a chief in their own right. If you have your own family and you're handling things, you're a chief too. So I said, just name it and claim it. I was kind of joking with them. And the woman turned and said, "No, I know you are a chief." And I said, "Well, what makes you say that?" And she said, "I can tell by the way you walk." She said, "All chiefs walk like that. I can see it. She said, "You come from royal blood." So we ended up having a dialogue. But that had nothing to do with using a name or a title or anything like that. It's the energy and the aura that you walk with that people can pick up on. And that energy and that aura comes from the integral structure of your character. Okay? The integral structure of your character. Not how many likes you get on a Facebook post. Not how much you can gangbang, with beef. You gotta send threats. You're giving me an headache with that foolishness. So it's not how much you can do that, but it's your character. It's so important. I talk about it all the time and people don't get it. Character, and because of my character, I was able to be carried through a situation that Homeland Security was trying to orchestrate that could have ended in a very different type of way. And, long story short, someone went into the system in Homeland Security and changed the status of my passport to stolen and claimed that I had been traveling around on a stolen passport. Okay. Back in 2009, I reported my own passport as lost. Then I found it, even though it wasn't actually lost. It was stolen by a local police department. And then I retrieved it. I rendered it into the courthouse so that they could see I have it. And I sent paperwork off to say, hey, it was recovered and everything was cool. I received paperwork back saying, okay, your passport was covered. You're cleared to travel. This was a long time ago. Okay. Everything was good. And, I was really guided by support and help when I went through this, because when security officers went into the system to look at my paperwork, they said, well, the code here for a stolen passport is wrong. It looks like somebody just went back in and typed this, because you originally reported it as lost and you never said it was stolen. You reported it as lost. And we don't use this code. So it was a long story. I won't really get into all of that because, again, hey, even some of the officers that I ended up speaking to at Homeland Security, they were being guided and orchestrated by ancestral energy, and some of the information that they were telling me, was really helpful, and some of the things that they were able to do was really helpful, So the power of character, and the power of doing real spiritual work puts you in a position where people can't hurt you as much as they would like to. Even if you're out working with your people and waking your people up and bringing resources and technology and information, to your family abroad. And there's some people who may be offended by that work. They can't stop it. Can't do anything about it. They can just, create little minor inconveniences for you if you see it as that. But this was a beautiful thing, because as I had even shared, on a social networking site. I met a young man from Rwanda while I was in the quote unquote immigration detention lounge for the days that I was in there. And while you're in there, they don't give you any food or water or anything like that, and there's no beds, so you have to pretty much finagle. You got to understand something about Lagos Airport, Lagos period. Part of the economy, or one of the components that are clearly worked into the economy of that place is bribery. So when you come into the airport, you're straight up told, like, hey, you got a blessing for me? When they're searching your bags, you'll have the person look at you like, you got a blessing for me today? You got to throw them a couple bucks or whatever. So luckily I had some, not luckily, but spiritually, I had some cash on me, and I was able to feed this young man because he would have had nothing. And because of people who recognized who I was, in that space, on that land, knew who I was, they were able to bring certain things to me that made my stay a little bit more comfortable, as well as to help this young man out. So I was so thankful that I was there and able to help him. Had this situation not have happened, then I would have not have been able to do anything for him. He might have sat there and starved to death, the way these systems work. So again, everything always for a reason. And when you're in the trenches, for all of those of you who are in the trenches, a lot of times we have to work while we're still battle scarred. We get wounded in action, and you got to keep going. So like I said, one of the reasons that I slowed up a little bit, I contracted malaria while I was there in the airport, because I was eating, different types of food that aren't the healthiest, but I had to eat what I could, what was available. We'll put it that way. And so it kind of slowed me up a little bit, but I'm here. I'm moving now. I'm getting things done and catching up on my work. And of course, back here on Foundational Fridays. So I just wanted to share that information. A lot of people were asking me what happened, and I didn't really share. And of course, I can't share everything. And when we commenced this tour in June, the self-actualization tour, I'm able to speak to some of you one-on-one. First of all, like I said, thank you again for doing the rituals and the work that you did to make sure that I return safely. But I'll be able to speak more freely with you all. But these public forums are really not the space to speak about certain things, especially when you have angels and Orisha along the way, and guardians who are helping you in the form of people. You don't necessarily want to shout people out, because I had a lot of people step outside of their quote unquote job duty to assist me while I was going through this situation. And I'm thankful for them, and don't necessarily need them put in any awkward position where they may lose employment or anything like that. But in any event, we're going to decode a movie. All right, and I know all of our shows are scheduled a little bit off, but there's a movie I've been wanting to decode for you all. And as you could probably hear, I have Biggie Smalls, Who Shot You, playing in the background, because this was a song that kept coming to me while I was going through some of this ordeal, and I could not figure out why. Because I don't even listen to Biggie. I used to many years ago, but based on some of the effects I saw that the music had on the community, I pretty much stopped. But this song just kept coming to me. And then I realized that March 9th, that was his Earth Day. He was assassinated on March 9th, which was around the time that I was, going through a lot of this. Okay, so very interesting. That Biggie energy came through real strong, and he wanted to be presented on the continent. Okay, he and I were able to have some very interesting conversations to that regard. So I was able to actually get some of his music while I was there on my phone, and on a phone that I had, and I was listening to it every single day and doing my meditations to his music. And that was a large part of what pushed me through the door, or kicked in the door of the situation that I was going through. So, you know, you can't rule things out. Oh, and that was the other thing, that the individual who was saying that I was a fraud and so forth and so on. He said that he could tell I was a fraud because I was blending different things together. One minute I'm talking about Orisha, the other minute I'm talking about angels, Kemetic name, da 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 da. You know, I'm just throwing a whole bunch of things together. I'm a fraud. You know, so yeah, again, not that person is important. I mean, he's nobody, because anybody who would, you know, say that they're going to punch somebody in the teeth, and I mean, that I don't want to really get into that too much, but real men don't even speak that way. So I'll just say that was some other type of stuff that you know, we'll leave unto itself. But real men don't even talk like that, you know, or saying I'm looking at him out of the side of my eye. That, I don't know, man. It was a little zesty. Yeah, he sounds a little zesty. So, in any event, yeah, you're going to blend things together. Yeah, you're going to assimilate information. That's what you're here for. Okay? That's what you're here for. A lot of these people who are receiving titles and quote unquote rank over here, I'm going to tell you, abroad, it means absolutely nothing. Nothing. You go abroad and say, well, I'm Baba so-and-so. They look at you like you're crazy. Okay? Character, you know, being polite, being kind, being truly grateful. You'd be surprised how far it will get you in this tradition. You will be shocked. The people who will come to you and start teaching you things and take you under their wing just because you're authentic and you have good character, or you're striving towards good character. I mean, I know it sounds very simple when I say it to you, but you know, I'm living and walking proof of what I'm speaking about. I've had some of the greatest and most accomplished elders come to my aid, even when I was going through that situation. I don't even really speak about the people who came out of the woodwork to liberate me from that situation on many levels. It would shock you, you know, the level and the power that these people walk with. And, you know, it's not that I'm all that, quote unquote. It's just that I tend to be polite. I tend to be respectful. You know, I tend to be a person of character and authenticity and integrity, and it gets you a long way before any titles are mentioned, any titles, or are bought and paid for. Okay, so with that, we're going to get into the next part of our show. I'm going to get into some of this knowledge and wisdom and understanding and ism, this occultism and this spiritualism, so that I can give you all hopefully something to think about and one to grow on until the next segment. So, you know, as always, I'll be right back. Stay tuned. Pull out your notepads and your pens, and we're going to get into decoding of this movie, Death Note. I'll be right back.
For all those in the Manhattan area, please check out our Chief Jegna, Yuya Assaan-ANU, at Integral Yoga on Sunday, April 13th from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m., where he will be hosting a workshop on self-actualization with the cosmic forces of West Africa. In this workshop, you will learn how to self-actualize through the universal energies that govern the laws and character of the cosmos. This workshop is a continuation of the Unleashing of Cosmic Forces of West Africa series that is currently being enjoyed by thousands of listeners on Chief Yuya's popular blog talk radio show, Enlightenment and Transformation. The workshop is Sunday, April 13th from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Integral Yoga, which is located at 227 West 13th Street, New York, New York. The cost of this event is $25. Be prepared to change your life through aligning your spiritual faculties with their corresponding cosmic archetypes. RSVP at www.meetup.com/African-spirit-workers to meet Chief Jegna Yuya Assaan-ANU at Integral Yoga on Sunday, April 13th from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Integral Yoga is located at 227 West 13th Street, New York, New York. If you attend the workshop Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa, you will receive 50% off classes and discounts on our books and products. Once again, RSVP at www.meetup.com/African-spirit-workers. See you at Integral Yoga Institute for the workshop Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa.
Okay, definitely looking forward to seeing the crew represent at Integral Yoga. It's a nice, relaxed space where we'll be working out of. It's a yoga studio, so of course, it's got that relaxing vibe to it, which would be the perfect atmosphere for us to do what we need to do in terms of our learning. One note, I definitely want to remind people, it was said, but it's a yoga studio, so coming in, you have to remove your shoes. All right. So this will be a different type of experience in that you will now be allowed to feel the vibration of the earth by having your shoes off and being able to relax and, let the transforming foot chakras do their work. All right. But yeah, definitely would love to see the family come out and represent. Integral Yoga is not just a yoga studio, but they also have a food market, on the first floor level. Where they sell natural food, organic food, raw dishes, vegan food, and that's actually how they came to my attention years ago, was actually for the food dishes. But of course, they're also a very well-known yoga studio in New York City. So, come on out. You'll enjoy your time and you'll learn something, and you'll do it in a very relaxed environment. But in any event, we're getting into this movie, Death Note. And what I'm going to be breaking down is a live action film. I've actually not seen the anime Death Note, which is almost like the difference between a book and a movie, because the anime goes in deeper. But I came across a live action, and for those who may not have the time to watch all of the anime episodes, I think just watching live action pretty much can help to cover what we're speaking about in this show. But I was taken in, I was fascinated by the movie Death Note, and I'm not a big anime person. I keep trying to get into it, but I always feel like I come in at the wrong space and time with the anime, because for some of them, if you haven't seen like the entire series or whatever, you just get lost. And that seems to keep happening to me. So I don't really know too much anime. But this particular one, even though it was live action based off an anime, it really was interesting to me. And you'll find with a lot of the Japanese anime that most of the themes, they're usually themed around something spiritual. So there's science in them. There's a lot of science. And this particular one, Death Note, was written by Sugumi Oba, and it was directed by Tetsuro Araki. Okay, and Death Note's interesting because it really highlights the theory and not only the idea and concept of justice or even-handedness, but also of the anti-hero. Okay, and the anti-hero is a thing that you see in a lot of films, especially Western-produced films, where the villain of the film, throughout the film, at some point you begin to root for them based on how the film is designed and written. And Death Note is no different. It holds the same type of thematic movement and concept with it of the anti-hero. But before I get into the moralistic and the thematic movements of the actual film, I just want to give a quick synopsis, because it's multi-layered, so it will be very difficult for me to run through all of it. But I'll give you just a basic synopsis of what the movie is about. And basically, the movie is about this notebook that's called the Death Note, right? And a Death Note is a notebook that if one's name is written in it by an individual who not only knows that person's name, but has a mental image, or at least knows what that person's face looks like, then with the Death Note, then they're actually able to kill that person. Okay. Now, the way it basically works is that the movie started out, Ryuk, who's a Shingami, and a Shingami means a demon or a spirit of death. And Ryuk is a certain Shingami that lives in an astral world or the realm of death. He drops the death note down to earth. Okay. And basically he dropped the death note because he was bored. We didn't get all of this from the live action, but when you piece some of the other things together. So he drops it down, and our main character, his name is Light. Okay. Light. And Light Yagami, I believe his last name is. I could have that wrong because some of the anime names I mix around and I mess up a little bit. But in any event, okay. So we have Light, right? And the whole thing, Light picks up this notebook. He's in class one day, and Light Yagami, which is his name, he's a high school student, right? He picks up the notebook. And he reads the rules, and the rules are basically like in the beginning, and it says, whoever's name will be written in this notebook will die. But it will not happen unless the person or the subject, the person being written about, their face is known. Okay. So the reason that's done, so if someone has the same name as another person, they won't get killed by mistake. Okay. So if you write a name in a book and you have the face of the person and you write the cause of death, within 40 seconds, the person will die the exact same way you wrote it. Now, if you don't write the cause of death, the person will die within 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, if you do the science to that, you realize that 6 minutes and 40 seconds is 400 seconds. So we have this theme of the number 4 here. Okay. And there's other little rules that go along, like, if you use a death note, whoever uses a death note, their soul will neither go to heaven or go to hell when they die. Okay. Also the Shingami, which is that demon or that spirit of death that Ryuk is, the only person or people who can see the Shingami are those who are in possession of the death note. Okay. So our anti-hero, or our main character, Light, he's able to see the Shingami, Ryuk. And but no one else can see Ryuk unless they touch either the death note or a page in the death note. Okay. And we find that throughout the series, or throughout the show, that Ryuk is not necessarily, it's not like he's a servant, this Shingami, he's not necessarily a servant of Light, but he's just there to kind of observe. And he makes it clear, I'm just here watching, but I'm not on your side and I'm not on anyone else's side. And in fact, at some point, I'm going to write your name in the death note, because that's how people are taken off of the earth plane. The earth plane, the Shingami will write their name, and they die however they're written to die. Okay. But, and the way it works, that if the person, if the cause of death is not specified and the person dies within that 400 seconds, then they'll just die of a basic heart attack if you don't specify the cause of death. Okay. So you have, again, this character Light. And what's more important, or really important in this book, is to understand the concept of justice and morality. Light uses the book, when he first gets it, he's saying, well, no, this won't work. He doesn't really believe it. And then he uses it, and he finds out that it works. So he comes up with this plan and this idea to rid the world of evil people by using the death note. Okay. So he takes this very strong moralistic stance, where all of the people of the world, all the criminals of the world, if he can just get rid of them, then he can create this utopian society, or this utopian world. And he starts to take on this energy where he says, I'm going to be the god of this world. And he starts to feel like he's the only one who's qualified to do the moral cleansing on the planet. Now, what's critical in this story is to understand a couple things. Number one, that Light is a very popular high school student. He's the top of the class, of his class in Japan. He's known, he's one of Japan's finest. And his father is actually the police chief. Okay. Which we find out, a little bit further in the movie. But that's not really his problem or his issue. His biggest challenge, or his biggest adversary in the actual movie, is an individual by the name of L, just the letter L. Okay, and L is we could almost say an outsourced genius, that the cops use from time to time to help them solve different crimes. Okay. And L is one who is extremely withdrawn, whereas we have Light. Light he speaks about he's going to flood the world with positivity by removing all of these negative people. And when we get to meet L's character, there's a couple things that we understand first. Number one, no one has ever actually seen L's face with the exception of one person. Okay. He lives in complete anonymity. And we find out later he's a very young person. He's around the same age as Light. Okay. And on top of that, once you start to understand and look at the way L moves, you can tell, he's actually autistic. Okay. One of the things that you see through the movie is that he's constantly eating junk food. Constantly. Now, there's a science to this. Okay. The constant eating of the junk, he's always eating potato chips. It's just like something real sweet and like gooey, and, what they're really saying, the science of that was the sugar. Sugar promotes brain activity. Okay. So that was their little, subtle way of, putting that out there. But you'll find that, again, he's very suspicious of everyone. And what keeps him alive throughout the movie is the fact that Light does not know his name. He doesn't get to see his actual face until the end of the entire movie. Okay. And there was a whole bunch of twists and turns to that. But without knowing his name, remember, he can't write anything down into the book, into the Death Note book. Now, what's critical here is that when you look at the names, you have Light and you have L. Now, of course, when we're looking at L, we have to not just say the letter L, but we have to realize we're talking about L. Okay. So we're actually talking about two aspects and dimensions of God. We're talking about the masculine aspect and the feminine aspect. When you look at Light, and you've heard me say this a million times, of course, Light represents the masculine aspects of the universe. It's that expansive, positive force, whereas darkness represents the contracting force of the universe. Now, here's the key piece where we know each character is representing, a particular energy or a certain disposition of the Almighty. When you're dealing with, we have to take this back to our Hebraic languages, okay? And we're dealing with the idea of Elohim, as we see in Genesis, right? And where it says, and Elohim said, let us make man. Now, of course, in the King James Bible, it says, and God said, let us make man. But originally it was Elohim. And Elohim translates itself to masculine and feminine. How so? Okay. Well, you have the root Elo or Al or Elah. And Elah sounds very similar to Allah, right? But Elah actually is the feminine aspect of God. It means a feminine single God. Okay. And then when you add the M, which is the I am, the M onto the end of it, the M means that that's a masculine plural deity. Okay. So very interesting there, because you have that singular plural, female, which is Al or Ilo or Ilah. And then you have the, masculine plural, which is the M. So that's where we get the Elohim or Elohim. Okay. And Elohim or Elohim, what makes it kind of interesting, because you understand that the Elo or the Elo is coming first. And because it's singular, it's more supreme, because that's speaking about the oneness and how all of the masculinity comes out of the singularity of the femininity, multiple masculinity. Okay. So that's again strengthens our concept of the Great Mother. But let's get back to the movie, right? So with the concept of Elo or Elohim or El, we have Light. He's the one who's popular. He's in school. He wants to flood the world with positivity. He's going out and making changes. His name is Light. Then you have El. And remember, El relates us to Elo or Ilah. Right. And L is the feminine aspect. He's autistic. He doesn't really socialize with people well. Nobody has ever seen his face. You see, he's only known by the letter L. He doesn't speak much, so forth and so on. And his job is to uncover the mystery of Light. OK, and Light, what he's trying to do is uncover the name of L. Because if he can get the name of L, he can kill L. So he's trying to uncover the mystery of L, and L is trying to put a stop to light. Okay, so darkness is trying to stop the light, whereas the light is trying to reveal the darkness. Okay, this is the theme of this movie, well, one of the themes of this movie, Death Note, but it gives you an understanding, even when you're dealing with the concepts and the energies of light and dark, what the interplay is. Okay, one is trying to completely envelop the other in what it is, because light is an energy that will go out and completely flood a space. Okay, light looks to flood a space and completely envelop that space with its presence, whereas darkness is a vacuum. And that vacuum looks to absorb everything inside of it, to change everything that it touches. More importantly, this is the reason why, a lot of times when you first meet someone, a female, one of the first things she'll start doing is questioning everything about you. Why do you wear your hat that way? Why do you turn your music up so loud? Why do you got these rims on your car? Why do you hang out with this person? So forth and so on. And they're looking to change all of these different aspects of who and what you are. But now let's look at the boisterous energy and characteristics of that light and male energy, which feels that I am the one. I am the one to do this. I am the one to do that. Even when we come into a conscious understanding, oftentimes you have certain individuals that feel they'll even get into fisticuffs. There'll be physical altercations because they are so bent on being the ones that liberate the minds of certain people. When people have made it clear that maybe they're happy where they're at, they're not really interested in making certain changes and things like that. But it's that light energy that looks to envelop everything in its own idea or in its own definition, or to recreate the world in its own definition, because light is also a form of sight. So the world is really as I see it. Okay, the world is as I see it. And that's that masculine energy, whereas the feminine energy of L, or the woman, says, the world is the potentiality that it can be, and it could be anything. So the world is not as I see it, the world is as I produce it. Okay, and that production is only based on the ceiling of my own imagination. All right. So again, you have this interplay between light and dark energies, which is very interesting. And you'll find that this almost even mirrors, and I'm going to take it to another place where it almost seems unrelated, but it is related. This is almost the mirroring that you'll see between Michael Jackson and the artist that we know as Prince. Okay, Prince being that Oshun, or that feminine energy, and Michael being that Shango, that masculine energy. You'll see that same interplay, even in terms of the depth and quality of their music. One is very boisterous, very hard, very in your face, and the other one is very esoteric and metaphysical. There's definitely clearly an L and light scenario motif going on between the two. Okay, but let's get back to light for a second. Light is given the name eventually of Kira, and Kira is a name that the community gives him, because he actually goes on a rampage. He starts killing all these different people. He's killing criminals left and right, and the public adores him. Because they feel like he's doing the work that someone should have finally have done, but that most people are not really open to say in public. Most people wouldn't say that someone who commits a crime or a heinous crime should just be killed. Most people would say, well, they need to be rehabilitated, or so forth and so on. But when light starts killing people, the people's true energy, true affection comes out. Now, this is kind of interesting because there's all in this particular region of Japan at this time. It's a very violent place. There's a lot of killings and kidnapping, all kind of things going on. And it seems to be very little reaction from the populace. Whereas when we look at light, when he's seeing these things, he's clearly disgusted by them. They bother him. He's affected by it. And that's why he feels like he needs to recreate the world in his image and in a better image and create this utopia. So the word Kira is given to him, or the name, by the populace. And the word Kira comes from the English word killer. Okay, so the people's hero actually becomes is a killer. Well, this isn't really too far off. If we understand the representation that quote unquote God has taken in different traditions and different spiritual books, there was always clearly an executioner aspect of that God, and there was always clearly a distant aspect of that God where he or she would allow certain atrocities to go on, and he would just be watching as an observer. And then we'd ask questions, well, if God loves us so much, why this? right? But when you look at the work between Light and L, you don't see this great, humongous love or hatred for humanity. Okay. You see two individuals who have a vision and they want to fulfill that vision. And it has nothing in the world to do with love. Nothing. Okay. So now I want us to skip ahead or skip over for a second, and I want to address the Shingami, the death god. Okay, the Shingami by the name of Ryuk, which is the observer of light. And remember, he accompanies him, but he certainly does not help him. He made it clear to him that I'm not here to help you. I'm just watching because I really think humans are very interesting. Now, one of the things that you keep seeing with this Shingami is that he's always eating apples. Always eating. He loves apples. He said, just coming to the human world to taste these apples was worthwhile, just to have the apples. Okay. Now, again, what does the apples mean? We have to kind of look at everything is dealing with symbolism, whether we're dealing with an anime, whether we're dealing with a live action film, or whether we're dealing with live action life. All of this is one giant dream that was sent here to decode. So you let nothing go undecrypted. And, what's important also with the anti-hero idea that's perpetuated in this movie is a concept that just because you kill something, it doesn't make you the bad guy. And just because you keep something alive, it doesn't make you the good guy. Okay. This is something to give some thought to, even those who have some level of animal activism in them, who have taken on a life where they don't wear leather and things like that. And, or they don't do certain type of rites and rituals. It's just something to give some thought to, because again, Kira or Light is our hero in this story in many senses. Okay. He's the one that the people are rooting for, and he's the one who's really looking to clean the world up. And aside from that, he actually sacrifices his life to save the world or to recreate in his image, because he's told that he will go to a place of nothingness when he dies, or what they call in the Japanese, the mu, mu, which means the place of nothingness. So he sacrifices his eternal soul to actually save the world. Sound familiar? I'm the truth, the way, and the light. But anyway, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to break down the symbolism of the apple of Ryuk, or the apples, and we're going to get a little deeper into this movie, Death Note, and we're going to hit some other things as well. All right? So I'll be right back again.
Please join us as the Sadulu House Spiritual Center exhibits at the Mind, Body, and Spirit Expo, which is the largest holistic and spiritual expo in the tri-state area, on May 2nd through May 4th at the Garden State Exhibit Center in Somerset, New Jersey, located at 50 Somerset Drive in Somerset, New Jersey. At this 3-day event, you will have access to national and international exhibitors and speakers, including our very own master teacher, author, spiritual guide, and chief Jegna of the Sadulu House Spiritual Center, Yuya Assaan-ANU. Yuya Assaan-ANU will take participants of the lecture through various steps which will attune each individual in attendance to their own unique genius, source frequency, and improve the quality of their life. The lecture will take place Saturday, May 5th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the room General 2 at the Garden State Exhibit Center, and it is free to attend this lecture. Please visit www.mindbodyspiritexpo.com and click the link for speakers and lectures for more information. We also urge you to check out the exhibition at the Mind, Body, and Soul Expo, as the Sadulu House Spiritual Center will be exhibiting its products and services all 3 days. The Sadulu House Spiritual Center exhibition booth will include discounted classes, spiritual consultations, spiritual tools and divination supplies, books, DVDs, and more. Our booth location number is A10A. If you decide to come to the expo, you will also have access to free lectures, 3 days of free yoga classes, workshops, natural products, holistic health products, live entertainment, including music, drumming, chanting, and more. The Mind, Body, and Spirit Expo is May 2nd from 4 to 9 p.m., May 3rd from 10 to 8 p.m., May 4th from 10 to 6 p.m., and is located at the Garden State Exhibition Center at 50 Atrium Drive, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873. The cost is $5 to enter on Friday and $15 to enter on Saturday and Sunday. There are discounts available. So for more details and to RSVP for the exhibition and lecture, please visit www.meetup.com/African-spirit-workers. See you there.
So there we go. Lots of good stuff going on between April and May with the ANU spiritual order and the ANU family. We are going to be doing a lot of travel and a lot of shows, and this is all a part of the changing of the patterns, the regiments, and the offerings that I've been speaking about over the past few months, things that we're getting ready to do differently and how we're presenting different information even, and a different experience to you all. Very exciting time. This will be a very interesting spring coming forth. Very interesting. But in any event, before we left, I was speaking about the symbolism of Death Note, and I was adding in Ryuk, who I really loved his character. The death demon, the death god. I liked him a lot. But one of the things that you saw always consistent with Ryuk was that one, he was always flying, so he very rarely touched the earth, and he was always eating apples. He loved apples, which I mentioned earlier, and the apples represented forbidden fruit. Okay, what you'll find with a lot of Japanese anime is that there is these very strong biblical themes that they maintain, but they maintain the biblical themes while at the same time interfusing their own native and ancient mythology within it, which makes it extra interesting. Okay, but they also don't necessarily take the mythology out of the biblical themes, so it's all mythology. Okay, but what you have here is this fruit, this apple that Ryuk keeps eating. Okay, and at one point you even get the idea that light is just as good of a death demon, if not better, than Ryuk. Okay, so it's like Light himself is even eating the forbidden apple or the forbidden fruit. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, like I said, if the cause of death is not specified, okay, when he's writing in this book, if the cause of death is not specified, then the person has a heart attack. Well, it's important to note that the apple, the actual fruit of the apple, actually represents the heart chakra. Okay, so there's a theme here of this demon of death devouring the heart. Okay, killing the heart. Now, you'll find that also theme in terms of the empathetic link. The empathetic link between Light and L. What you'll find is with L, there's actually, you never see any emotion with him. There's no emotion at all. Whereas with Light, there's clearly emotion. You'll see him, enjoy the work. You'll see him get upset. You'll see this connection to his humanity. Okay, remember, because that one, or that Kether, or that crown, or that male or masculine energy is the one that seeks to go out into the world and define itself, whereas the feminine energy resides itself in the heavenly realm. Okay, this is one of the reasons why, in many senses, it is more advisable for men to take the lead here on the planet, and women should take the lead in spiritual matters. Why? Because men, our chemistry is more acclimated and more prepared, ready, set, and enthusiastic about life on earth, where a woman's chemistry is more enthusiastic and ambitious and excited about life in heaven. Okay, so that's why her thinking is more abstract and a man's thinking is more linear. He's more acclimated to the planet. Okay, so, but let's go back to Ryuk for a moment, and let's go back to this heart aspect. When you're dealing with Light and you're dealing with his emotionalism, you realize that he's basically a fallen hero. Okay, he's a hero who has become a villain because of the emotions that he's put behind his good deeds. Okay, so like we oftentimes say, it's not necessarily what the person does, but it's the intent behind it. And his intent, when we bring him into the focus of things, and his intent is good and it's justifiable in many senses, but he begins to do things that go beyond the right thing to do. For instance, at one point he kills an FBI agent by the name of Ray Pendler, I believe his last name was. Now, you know, again, the name is very important. Ray is a name that means God. If anybody did not know that, or for those who are studying Hebrew again, but the name Ray, or the word Ray, actually means God. Okay, so when you take that name Ray and then you add the Pendler, right? He was a Penber. I'm sorry, was his name Ray Penber? He was an FBI agent, and he really represented all that Light was trying to save. You know, he was hardworking. He had a fiance. He was just trying to do his job. He was trying to do the right thing. So Light ends up killing him because Ray was on his tail. Okay, Ray was getting ready to catch up with him, and you know he was assigned to monitor him. And I won't give too much of that away. You can watch the movie and you'll see how that actually went. You know, but Ray actually is the symbol of even-handedness, or the symbol of institutional justice, because L doesn't really represent justice, nor does Light. Okay, it's those who are sitting and following it to some degree with a blind execution. And Ray represented that, and Light kills Ray. Okay, Light kills Ray. Light kills justice in his pursuit to establish justice because he was blind. This happens so often, even when people get into the conscious community. You're supposed to now understand and have a greater understanding and appreciation for concepts such as love, such as compassion, such as nurturing, the cultivation of the mind. But a lot of times people become so arrogant because they're completely enveloped in the light of their own consciousness that they kill love. They kill compassion. They kill even-handedness. They kill these principles of Ma'at that they scream so daily and so often, you know, because they become very arrogant and they become very full of themselves. This is one of the dangers of light. This is one of the dangers of what light will do to you. Okay. Whereas the darkness of L will make you so that you are apathetic. You know, you lose emotion. You lose your connection with your humanity, you know, and there's a balance in between. In the middle. Okay. So again, with this particular film, you're seeing the interplay between feelings and emotions and not having emotions. And while Ryuk is eating all these apples, he's eating and killing the emotions in the heart of Light. That's what the apples represent. It's that forbidden fruit of emotion. Okay, it's the forbidden fruit of humanity. When we go back to the Bible story again with Adam and Eve, them going through Doth, which was that hidden Sephiroth, the 11 Sephiroth, which we were told was a fruit. Okay, no problem, whatever. But that fruit of orgasm, which was, because that's what the snake or the serpent represented. It was that phallic symbol, and the orgasm, that brought them into a place now where they were able to create and see like the gods saw. Okay. But that also meant that they would now have a connection with emotion. So now they felt shame. They felt guilt. They felt nakedness. Okay. They felt now to lie and to say things like, it was the woman who you gave me that gave me of the fruit and I ate of it. So now you don't even take accountability. You have cowardness. You have a connection now with all of these emotions because you've taken this fruit, this forbidden fruit. Okay. So, there's a lot of other symbols in the movie. One of the things that you'll also see is that Light's hair, he's got like a brownish tint to his hair, and L's hair is black. Okay, so that's also significant. You have the colors of basically brown and black, or red and black. One again representing that emotion, or that light, or that fire. And the other one, the black, representing that coolness, that darkness, that water. Okay, so even in their images that they presented, and when you also see L, you'll notice that he's always hunched over. He has terrible posture, whereas Light always stands really tall. He has excellent posture. Okay, all of that means something. All of that adds into something that you are to pay attention to. But like I was saying, even with Ray Penber, you know, when he killed Ray Penber, Look at the name, Penber, something that's writing, right? Something that writes. And Re means God, so the God of writing. Okay, this would even be a Moses figure. Why? Because Moses was a bringer of the law. Re was an FBI agent. Okay, so he killed the law. Light kills the law in order to get things done that he needs to get done. Okay, so you would have thought in most movies, you know, typical movies, that would have been the moment probably the movie ended. He would have decided not to kill him because it's not right, and he would have kind of woke up to what his original intention was. And, you know, because most movies have that same theme. And that's one of the things that makes this movie so interesting, you know, and why I'm not going to break everything down, because I want you to watch it yourself and sit down with your pen and pad, and you're going to see even more, okay, of this whole fight between what is right and what is not right. This movie also kind of reminded me of Transformers. You know, not just the movie, but the cartoon, because I haven't even seen all of the Transformers movies. But I remember as a youth watching the Transformers cartoon, and I always felt like I was really on the side of the Decepticons, because the Autobots, I'm like, why are they so bent on saving humanity when the Decepticons are sitting here saying, listen, we're more advanced, like we're the next step in things, you know? Of course, you know, with certain people, cybernetics is always the next step. The Iron Man theory. If it's not Iron Man, where they're infusing machines with mankind, they're infusing animals with mankind, such as Spider-Man, you know? But in any event, but either way, they still represented the next phase in evolution. And the Autobots were so bent on saving the last phase, you see, the weaker phase. Same thing I used to, you know, when I used to watch Superman. And then, you know, someone would come from another planet and they would say, your weakness is your love for these petty humans, you know, which is true. No different when, what's the other one? X-Men, right? You have Magneto and you have Professor X. And I agree with Magneto. We're better than them. So why are we sitting here trying to save them if they're trying to kill us? You know? But anyway, I mean, I guess that's my position on it. You know, there's different sides to look at that, but the truth is neither one is good and neither one is bad. And that's what this movie is really showing you. They're just polarities. Okay. Neither Light nor L has any great hatred or love for humanity. Neither one of them is actually right. Neither one of them is a villain. Neither one of them is really a hero. Okay. They're just fulfilling out their mission. That's all. And the actual spirit forces, Ryuk, is just observing, you know? So you see the power of human will. Okay. You see the power of human will in this particular movie, because, whatever one desires and wants to do is what's going to happen. And that forbidden fruit is the choice of doing whatever it is that I feel I want or should or need to do. But again, that uncontrolled expression of light, going out there with so much ego, so much information, without the balancing of objective reasoning or detached reasoning, which is the L, which is the feminine aspect, will drive you insane. Okay, stare at the light long enough. This is a good movie you should check out, called Sunshine, when you get a moment. Very good movie, and it gets into the same concept of light and dark. Okay, very good movie, Sunshine. All right, when you get a moment, check that out. But anyway, folks, that is our segment. It is good to be back, you know, and excuse me for any stuttering or anything that may have gone through the show. You know, I may be a little rusty. But just believe, even when I'm not on the show, if I'm not doing the show, just because I'm busy doing other work for us all, so that we can have something and we can do something and we can move from thought to declaration to action. So, you know, as always, it was a pleasure. I enjoy sharing with you all and teaching. And I was going to do some more Q&A in this segment, but, you know, I decided I have so many emails lined up here for Q&A that I'm going to save them. All right. Because it would be another hour of just Q&A. Okay. But, you know, take some time and check out that movie, Death Note. And I want you to pay close attention to the concepts of morality and justice. Okay. And the indifference of the gods. Okay. That's what I want you to pick up and check out with the movie Death Note live action film. But in any event, like I said, that has been our segment. I am Yuya Assaan-ANU. It has been a pleasure. Again, thank you all for those of you who sent out positive words, strength, offerings of assistance while I was intertwined with the situation with the people who helped to create a situation for me while I was out of the country. Just understand that those of us who do certain work cannot happen from the comfort of our sofas or our offices. And sometimes we have to get into the trenches and roll our sleeves up and, ride out into the bush and do what we need to do. And I am one who does that and will continue to do that. So you may be privy to some more of my adventures again at another time. This is nothing new for me, and unfortunately, my family, those who are close to me, they're used to it. And even when this situation happened, no one really panicked, and it's okay. Well, here we go again, and it reminded me of conversations that I had with a dear elder of mine who was harassed and bothered by certain institutions once he released certain artistic works back in the days. We're going 30, 40 years ago, but he's a very notable figure, very, very notable figure. And I even gave him a special dedication in my book, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships. But he used to sit and talk to me about it. And I guess in some instances he was preparing me for some of the things that I would go through when I came into certain places and positions with my work. So it's a part of this operating course for liberation. Dealing with certain levels of difficulty and challenge. But the beautiful thing is, nothing stops Ifa. Nothing trumps Ifa. I don't talk about that much, but trust me, it's very hard to hurt me. It's very difficult. I have so many spirits that work with me and that are around me, and I do so much work, and the work that I do for people all the time. You know what happens when you do work for people, when you help people out? It's a little secret. Their ancestors align themselves with you. Okay, so for all of you, you know who you are, who you've gotten initiations and consecrations and spiritual work done by me, sometimes, for greatly reduced prices, sometimes for no price, right? Because I was called to do that. I'm going to make it clear, so don't start calling me, emailing in and telling me you don't have any money, but you need something done. I follow, a different set of protocol. But, because I did those things and I continue to do those things, and even when I was over there, I was doing those things for people, I get help. People's ancestors say, you know what, let's help this guy out because he's currently helping our child, or he's always here to help our child. You see, a little secret for those of you who are contemplating if you should help others. You still get something back. So it's been beautiful, you all. Stay beautiful, stay strong, stand firm, but remain flexible. And I will speak to you in another 7 days. Odabo.
We thank you for your listening support and urge you to become an active participating member of the ANU community. Therefore, if you would like more information on ANU events and offerings, please sign up for our newsletter at anunation.org. That is ANUNATION.org. For all those listening, if you'd like to move closer to the calculations and fundamental understandings of the ANU order, be sure to pick up the book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. If you desire a spiritual reading to help you map your current spiritual position in the face of the world and learn the greatest pathways for your fortune in this season, or you would like to become a student of the ANU spiritual order, you can go to saduluhouse.org. That is SADULUHOUSE.org. orishareligion.org. If you would like to sponsor or advertise on this or any of our other broadcasts, please contact us at 1-800-A-NEW LIVING. That is 1-800-268-548-464. Or email us at questions@anewnation.org. That is the word questions@anewnation.org. For more information about Orisha and Orisha products, you can go to orishareligion.com. That is orishareligion.com. A New Nation thanks you for your continued support. Be well.